Hey guys, this is Joe from Startuprad.io. Are you self-employed or running a small business? With Tide's free business account, you can manage invoices, track expenses, and prep for taxes, all in one place. Plus, get 200 or 400 euros cash back, depending on your business type, when you sign up and spend. Use promo code Startupradio at tide.co/podcasts.de. Terms apply.
Welcome to Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Joe from Startuprad.io, your go-to startup podcast for startup founders, scale-up executives, and venture capital insiders. In today's episode, we dive into the power of strategic storytelling for startup growth with our guest, Ehud Dror, founder of Tailoring Your Story. Ehud is a renowned startup pitch expert and narrative strategist who helps tech founders to turn complex ideas into founding-ready investor decks, go-to-market messages, and memorable keynote stories. With a track record of guiding some of Israel's most innovative startups, Ehud unpacks how clarity, belief, and emotional resonance can differentiate your brand, attract VC funding, and align your team. If you're a B2B SaaS founder, deep tech entrepreneur, or a growth stage executive preparing to pitch, this episode is packed with insights on using startup storytelling, pitch deck optimization, and strategic communication to win in competitive markets. We met at the EU Startup Summit in Malta, and now welcome, Dror. Welcome, Ehud. Sorry. Welcome, Ehud. Welcome to Startup Radio.
Hi. Very excited to be here.
It is my pleasure. Let us dive in straight with narrative and strategic communications. It's all about storytelling with you, but why is storytelling the most underutilized tool in startup growth?
Ooh, wow. So I like how you dove into the pain point at the very first question. But I wouldn't be a storyteller if I didn't start with the sentence, let me tell you a story, right? So let me tell you a story. Most founders think storytelling is something you do at the end, when in fact it should shape everything from the start. Founders often invest in product, in tech, go to market, but forget what makes people believe. Storytelling isn't fluff. It's a strategy dressed as a narrative. It aligns your team, it earns investors' trust, and help customers understand what you do, and most importantly, why it matters. Most pitches I see are loaded with features and jargon. Most entrepreneurs use them to sound bright and trendy, and they think the big tech words make the difference. But who really understands what the algorithm or how the algorithm works, right? Investors and partners
Actually, have to tell you, Ehud, what is really interesting is the longer I do this, the more I can really feel you, for the very simple reason you go on the website or you listen to a presentation of one of the founders and he drones on for like 20 minutes. And at the end you think, what the hell are you guys actually doing?
Yeah.
Right? That is a point you're trying to make. And I've seen so often.
Yeah. So basically the algorithm, no one understands how it works, include investors. So you can feel free to let that part go. So investors and partners are at the end of the day seeking clarity, vision, conviction. Okay, a great story delivers all three. Startups that know how to tell their story don't just raise money faster; they move faster, because once people believe in you, you're halfway there.
Mm-hmm. When people believe in you, you're halfway there. That's a pretty good quote. So we already talked about startup narratives. What makes a startup narrative resonate with both the investor and the customer community?
So that is a great question, but the simple answer would be that it doesn't. The,
Okay, now you got some explaining to do.
yeah. And the more complex answer would be that the best startup stories live at the intersection of vision and relevance. For investors, it's about scalability and belief. They want to know you're solving a real problem in a way that can grow. Customers, on the other hand, it's about empathy and clarity. They don't want to know you understand them, or they do want to know you understand them and can improve their lives. A resonant narrative bridges both by answering three questions. Why now? What urgency drives this? Why you? I mean, what makes this team and solution credible? And why should anyone care? So that's where the emotional hook lives. A good narrative knows how to speak to both and speak the language of opportunity to investors and value to customers. And it does it both without switching personalities. When you hit that sweet spot, your story doesn't just resonate, it compels action.
You mentioned clarity and momentum. How do you build that in a pitch, especially a short one?
Okay, so clarity and momentum are two rails every great story runs on. Clarity means stripping your message down to the one thing you want people to remember. It's not about dumping things down. It's about making complexity unavoidable. When I start working on a story, I always ask if your audience remembers only one sentence, what should it be? That's your signal. Everything else supports it. Then comes the momentum part, and that's where most pitches fall flat. Momentum is the feeling that things are already moving, and the only smart thing to do is to join the ride. A good example would be showing traction early, or use a quote, or a win, a number that proves motion. Structuring your pitch like a story arch. Don't just inform people, escalate, end with a vision. So people lean forward, not back. When you combine clarity with momentum, you don't just explain your idea, you drew people into it. People are looking for that hook, so give them something to aspire to.
Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through? I've seen some examples when preparing for this interview. Can you walk us through how you turned quantum computing into a story about speed? Because many people talk about quantum computing. Yeah, they're small things and they do something. That is not really a story, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an excellent example of taking a complex message and simplifying it. One of my clients, a partner at a VC firm, asked how to explain quantum computing to non-technical audience. So instead of starting with definitions, I reframed the whole concept with one word: speed. I open with Usain Bolt's 9.58 second world record. This is something everyone instantly relates to and understand and get. And then I position quantum computing as the next leap in computer processing power. Not just faster, but a new kind of speed. And to get the full picture or to bring it to life, I used metaphors like the flash. Again, not to explain physics, but to paint a picture of limitless potential. We showed how this new kind of acceleration could transform fields like medicine, cybersecurity, and finance. So basically, what we did is we swapped equations for metaphors, confusion for clarity, and abstraction for emotional resonance. So once we planned that the right association, the rest was given.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, what's your take on why so many pitch deck fails to convert? Is it just you pitching the wrong VC, you pitching the wrong vertical, the wrong stage, or is it simply the story fails?
Okay, so as long as it's just both of us on this conversation, let me tell you a secret. Most PJs,
Just you and me and 50,000 listeners.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So let me tell you a secret. Most PJs fail not because the idea is bad. I mean, some ideas are not worth mentioning, but the majority fails because the story is broken. A good deck transforms the way people feel about your opportunity. The problem is that founders are often too close to the product. They try to explain everything, features, deck, milestones, and in the process, they bury the one thing investor needs, the belief. A pitch deck isn't a data dump. There is a considerable difference between dumping data, even if it's good one, and telling a story. Telling a story is a belief building tool, after all. You're not just pitching your solution. Most of the time, what fails is decks are too long or too technical or too flat, lacking momentum or flow that resonates with the audience. Storylines that feel scattered, like a list, not a journey, and no emotional anchor, I mean, just logic. And most importantly, know why. Um, One of the most quoted TED Talks, Why, by Simon Sinek, discusses where great leadership and innovation begin. Sinek explains that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The most successful leaders inspired by communication from the inside out. I mean, starting with the purpose, then how, then what. Show a clear signal from slide one. What are we solving and why now? A founder who gets the market, not just the tech, and the structure that builds confidence slide by slide. This is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I totally know what you mean. Let us get a little bit into fundraising and pitch coaching, because a lot of people out there, usually we start with our audience around with our coverage around Series A, but I do get the message that a lot of our audience is Series A, B, but mostly Series C founders. So therefore, that's actually a different level, because you have somebody who's working for you, you have coaches that work with you on that. But what do top performing investor presentations have in common?
So I would like to address this matter from a broader range of stories, because we all have all kinds of stories supporting our day to day, whether it's marketing, sales, product, finance, IPO, internal stories, and so on. So I did some research and looked at the top 20 rated TED Talks and found some similarities between them. Um, First of all, they all use the platform to its maximum. You have a limited time to convey your message. First of all, clear ideas, narrative structure, visual simplicity, of course, authentic delivery, data supporting storytelling, and compelling conclusion. In his TED Talk, How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint, David J.P. Phillips emphasized the importance of designing a presentation that aligns with our brain cognitive capabilities. He advocates simplicity by focusing on one message per slide, minimizing text, and utilizing visual to enhance understanding, creating more engaging and effective presentation. A great example would be Al Gore, that effectively conveyed complex climate data through an impactful visual in his An Inconvenient True presentation.
I think everybody remembers him for this lift he was on, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Another great example would be Steve Jobs in his
Mm-hmm.
iPhone launch, concluded with the iconic phrase, one
Mm-hmm.
more thing, introducing a surprise element that left a lasting impression. And there are many more examples of great stories that can maximize the audience attention by following all these
Mm-hmm.
fundamentals.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe a moment when a storytelling shift led to funding success?
Well, I'll answer that with a story, but not from a startup point of view, but from recent events that can teach us how a great story is formed. Um, Yuval Rafael, Israeli representative for Eurovision 2025, which was held a few weeks ago, didn't win the audience favor with the 13 douze points and second place overall just because of the music. I mean, she's a great singer, no doubt, but if we go deep, we will find an unbelievable story. To those of you who don't know her story, she's a survivor from the Nova Festival on October 7th after playing tag for hours until she was rescued. And she captured hearts and global attention because her performance carried something deeper, a story of identity, intensity, if you'd like, and unapologetic authenticity. This is something you can't fake. I mean, she wasn't just singing a song, she was telling a story of resilience, of self expression, of belonging. And that emotional clarity is exactly what changes the game in startup storytelling too. If you can build that in your pitch, the rest will follow.
Hmm. I was just checking on eBay while you were talking. With this Nova Festival, we got into very tough content. I was just checking such a scissor lift as Al Gore used it should be worth for you a few thousand euros. So I would not recommend it to use it for your next presentation, especially if you do air travel. Um, okay. Um, keeping a little bit to our fundraising and pitch coaching, how can a founder translate his or her belief into deck or keynote?
So, referring back to Simon Sinek TED Talk, the most essential belief tool is start with why. And the answer can't be because I want to change the world or to make money or like every beauty queen wants to stop world hunger. You know this?
That's definitely possible. Or world peace.
Or world peace, right? So, because all these things are too vague, too universal, and too emotionally hollow at the end of the day, it doesn't create the resonance because anyone can say it, and many do. So it's like saying, I want to be happy. Okay, it's true, but it's not specific, earned, or anchored in personal insight. So I often use the Pixar story spine. It's used to craft emotionally compelling, clear, and memorable narratives. And it works just as well for startups as it does for animated films. So basically, what it means, you're not selling the idea, you're inviting belief through a narrative arch. You go from the personal spark or your personal spark to problem, to solution, to vision. The audience isn't just informed, they emotionally involved. It has 6 steps for creating a story. So once upon a time, everyday problem, until one day, because of that, until finally, and ever since then. So now let's check this out, how it really works. So every story starts with once upon a time,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh huh.
So describe what was broken in the world before you started. For example, once upon a time, small businesses were invisible online. Continue with everyday problem. Describe the frustrating status quo or the reality your audience relates to. Every day they spent hours creating content that
Mm-hmm.
no one saw. Okay, until one day, what was your spark? The insight, the frustration, or problem that made you act. Until one day we realized the problem wasn't effort; it was a strategy. And because of that, introduce your product or solution, but not as a pitch, but as a natural response. Because of that, we build a platform that uses AI to optimize every piece of content in real time. Because of that, you can show traction here, or momentum, or proof, emotional payoff. Because of that, our users double their reach in under a month. Until finally, describe the transformation, what success looked like with you in the picture. until finally small businesses had a voice that could compete with big brands. And ever since then, paint the future, your vision that you're building, invite the belief in. And ever since then, we've been on a mission to level the playing field for small creators anywhere. So that would be an example of using a well-known model and translated it into our needs. The mechanism stays the same, but and the story changes according to our goal.
Hmm. Hmm. Exactly. So I was wondering, we are already getting into the next question because you have the same startup story for different goals. Once for the VCs, once for the customers, and once for the media. How do you do that?
So one of the first questions we ask at the beginning of a project is who my target audience is. Think your story is like a diamond. It has the same shape, but different light or different angles catch different light. The core story or essence stay the same, but the emphasis shifts depending on who's listening. VCs are interested in considerable market insight, the size of the opportunity, the team unfair's advantage. They're looking for momentum and scalability, betting on growth, not just the idea. For example, we've identified a massive shift in the industry and are building the infrastructure to power it. Customers, on the other hand, are looking to see if you got them. Lead with the problem they face, use their language, their pain points, show empathy before features and benefits before specs. I mean, a good example would be, that frustrating moment when XYZ happens, we fix it, okay? Media looking for a story worth telling or a breaking news. You can lead with a hook, a surprising stat, a bold claim, if you would like, a human moment, position the startup in a culture or industry trend. Something like, in a world flooded with AI hype, this team quietly built a tool that helps humans think better. So remember the diamond, it has the same shape, but different angles catch different light.
Hmm. Understood. Um, we get a little bit deeper now into psychology and emotional leverage because storytelling actually appears to emotions, to psychology. That's the way it works. What role does this emotional resonance play in high stakes communication?
So emotional resonance is the difference between being heard and being remembered. A perfect example of this is Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. If he had stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and presented statistics, we might have heard him, but we wouldn't have remembered him. So instead, he painted a vivid emotional picture. I have a dream that my four little children will one day, and so on and so on. So emotion is what moves people to act. It feels personal, it bypasses the doubt, and it's about being human after all. Take our day to day, for example. We are all surrounded by messages all day, at work, on our way to home, and with our loved ones. But ask yourself what you remember at the end of the day. I mean, what you honestly remember. And the answer would be close to nothing. But if you keep in mind that you're not just transferring information, whether it is for a pitch deck, a company story, or any other story you need to pass, you're transferring emotion, urgency, and trust after all. Then you would be on the right path of conveying a good message. I'll give you an example of a story I built for a construction company that wanted to sell its building project. Took the basic term of home. We took the basic term of home and then transformed it into something emotional by giving home a meaning. We did it by taking the phrase
Mhm.
home sweet home and said that the home is more than just four walls and a rooftop. Home is our memories, it's our dreams and hopes, it's our whole life. So once we created that emotion, a home went from four walls and a rooftop to something bigger that people can
Mm-hmm.
relate to.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. What is the best way for founders to tell vulnerable but also authentic stories without losing any trust?
So we'll start with the bottom line here. Vulnerability builds trust as long as it serves the story and not the founder's ego. People don't lose trust when you're vulnerable. They lose trust when you pretend everything is perfect. Share the challenge, but not the chaos. I mean, tell us what was hard, but show us how you overcome it. A good example would be something like we almost gave up after the product failed, but what we learned reshaped everything. I mean, frame failure as fuel. When asked about his success, Michael Jordan said, I succeeded because I failed. Vulnerability becomes strength when it leads to insight, action, or growth. Well, you're not saying we messed up. You're saying we got smarter faster. Balance the emotion with clarity. Show heart, but stay grounded after all. Investors and teams need to feel both your humanity and your leadership. Make it relevant, of course. If you're telling a vulnerable story, it should support your core message and not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. In strategic messaging, there's always talks about signal and noise. How do you approach that? And can you tell us a little bit about what is signal, what is noise? Because I personally, I run Startuprad.io mostly by myself with some assistance, and I get up to 100 emails a day. No kidding, you guys. And the question is, how would you, for example, stick out from all this noise that surrounds me that I get your message?
So, as you said, first let's remember what signal is and what noise is. Signal is what truly matters. Noise is all the rest. As simple as that. But the hardest part of strategic messaging is deciding what not to say. I mean, in every founder story, there's a ton of noise, feature, metrics, buzzword, even good intentions. Remember the quantum computing story? It had the potential of being a flop using buzzwords. Founders tend to use the everything is important method. But comes to think about it, if everything is important, nothing stands out. That's where the signal comes in. Signal is the one thing that must land, the sharp truth you want people to remember when the meeting ends. What sets you apart? From my experience working with hundreds of companies, this is the most challenging part and the heart of every process of creating a winning story. It requires some skill, a broad understanding, and the ability to listen. My approach is to zoom out before you zoom in. Always look at the big picture. Using the one slide test. So once you find it, the rest will eliminate what's nice to say. Test each slide to see how it fits the overall flow and whether he creates the momentum you are seeking. All of these create the differentiation between a signal and noise.
I see. So, noise is what does not matter and signal is what matters. I think I'll keep that in mind for future communications. Guys, we will be back after a short ad break. Quick break brought to you by Tide. If you're self-employed or running a small business, you know how messy finances can get. That's where Tide comes in. Their free business account helps you to stay on top of it all. Invoicing, expenses, and even smart tax tools streamlined in one place. And here's the best part. Get 200 euros cash back when you spend 500 euros as a sole trader or 400 euros cash back after spending 1,000 euros as a registered business. Just sign up at tide.co/podcastce and enter the promo code Startupradio at checkout. Hey guys, welcome back with Ehud as my guest here. We are talking about storytelling and communications. And we already talked about there is a lot of complexity in startups. Talked about simplifying a complex story. Can you walk us through your framework for explaining, for example, deep tech to non-technical stakeholders?
Okay, so explaining deep tech to non-technical stakeholder, whether it's investors, partner, or end user, is tricky because the tech is the easy way to go, and most of the time they found a safe place. In order to avoid that, we need to keep it simple, as you said. Use analogs that support your message by creating imagery. Usain Bolt, the Flash, quantum computing. Avoid the jargon. Remember, no one understands the algorithm, so remember that. And it's not that important at that stage of the presentation, the um, the jargon, because people tend to use it in order to sound smart. Okay, so avoid it. Just put it aside. Show the journey, not the code. I mean, you need to map the user or business flow, not the algorithm. Use images to demonstrate what you mean. We call it visual storytelling. So today we use AI tools to create any image we want to to convey a precise message. Understand what your target audience is looking for and try to give it to them. Learn from the competition, obviously. I mean, see what they say. You might know how to say it better or differently. And please keep it simple. I mean, keep in mind that your message needs to be understood by an 8-year-old. If an 8-year-old can understand your message, so you're on the right way.
That reminds me of one of my first bosses who is actually listening to this podcast, and he told me if you write a presentation on capital markets in consulting, make sure your grandmother would understand it. And I do believe that that's something that could really stick to you. We just talked about jargon. How can founders avoid falling into steadily talking in jargon, but still preserve credibility within the respective sub scene, for example, in deep tech, fintech, and so on and so forth?
So I think we already covered that, but jargon pushes people away versus clarity that invites them in. We keep the credibility, but wrapped it in a story everyone can relate to and understand at the end of the day. In your case, it was your grandmother. In my case, it was my 8-year-old son.
Yes, that works. Are there certain elements that are essential when pitching highly complex, highly technical products for highly complex content?
Yeah, so most of the time, the more highly tech, the more complex the message is. When you pitch something highly technical, such as quantum computing or AI, the elements of the story are the same in every story. But remember that the tech, at the end of the day, doesn't close the deal. The story does. It goes back to clarity, simplicity, and using plain language. You don't have to hide the tech, obviously, but you must translate it. Focus on the problem, not the product. For example, we are solving a $1 billion problem in supply chain trust, not just building a better blockchain, because blockchain is abstract, but supply chain, everyone understands. Technical doesn't mean boring, and technical doesn't always mean it's the signal. If it serves you right, so absolutely use it. But if not, let's try to find out what your advantage is. The one thing that you do that nobody else does.
Let's go a little bit into go-to-market and growth. As I said, we do have different audiences here, different stages of entrepreneurs. Do you have any narrative strategies that work best during different stages, like early stage, Series A, scale up? Is there a difference?
Yeah, absolutely, there is a difference. So our name is Tailoring Your Story because we don't have a one-size-fits-all policy. As you said, different fundraising stages demand different narratives, strategies. Uh, because the audience mindset and what they are betting on, it evolves all the time. For example, pre-seed or seed, we usually sell the founder or the insight and the belief, because this is the leg we can stand on. Series A shifts from belief to traction, show that the story is starting to come true. Scale up, we will position ourselves as category leaders, owning the narrative. We approach every story according to its goal, target audience, and main message we want to convey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So in different growth stages, you do have different stories to tell. And how can a clear story accelerate your go-to-market strategy or product market fit?
Clear story can massively become a fundamental way into the go-to-market and strengthen it, but not to replace it. It might help execute and support it better, because when your story is sharp, everyone from product to sales to investors understand what you're building, who is it for, and why it matters now. It sharpens your customer lens. It arms your sales and marketing teams. It reduces friction in the funnel. People will convert faster. A clear story doesn't just tell the world what you're doing. It tells your company and employees where to aim and how to move faster and achieve your goal.
Hmm. We've talked about positive parts of the story, but is there a common mistake, a common storytelling mistake that kills startup momentum?
Absolutely. So the first mistake would be not doing all the things we talked about so far. But a company story is like a living creature. It needs to be updated and examined all the time. Momentum in storytelling isn't about speed. It's clarity. It's tension and the reason to keep going. A powerful example is the opening of the first Harry Potter book. When J.K. Rowling doesn't rush through action or overwhelmed with the magical details. I mean, she builds the momentum and tension. Momentum by creating clarity. A seamlessly ordinary boy living under the stairs. And then comes the tension. Strange things are happening. Letters keep arriving, and no one will explain why. And the most important thing is a reason to keep going. Who is Harry? Why is he different? Readers are pulled forward not by speed, but by emotional investment and unanswered questions. That's storytelling momentum. I mean, not how fast the plot moves, but how deeply it makes you need to know what happens next.
I see. That's interesting. From Harry Potter, I always have in mind, like when they go out, when they avoid all the letters, when they go out and have like all the trees, the building surrounding, covered in owls. That's what I have in
Yeah.
mind. Going a
Yeah.
little bit into the last few questions because I'm bombarding you with questions for almost 40 minutes now. Talk a little bit about differentiation and competition. Sometimes it feels like you're swimming in an ocean of startups. How does a narrative help to shape your positioning?
Okay, so narrative is positioning with the heartbeat. Positioning tells me where you are, but the narrative tells me why I should
Mm-hmm.
care. It gives investors something to bet on. It gives customers something to believe in, and it gives your team a reason to show up with fire every day. For example, you're not just a fintech tool. You're restoring financial dignity, or you're not just a cybersecurity platform. You're defending the edge of digital trust, or you're not just optimizing workflows. You're reclaiming hours of human focus. Once you set the narrative, it should guide you through the whole story.
You're doing good. And we do have the last question ahead of us. Still differentiation and competition. How can storytelling help founders to defend either against copycats or even larger competitors?
So this question reminds me of the times we're experiencing in this era of AI. The one thing AI can't replace yet is our emotions and intuition. In a world where anyone can copy your product, your story and strategy becomes your strongest defense, because feature can be cloned, but trust and emotional connection, those take time to build, and are almost impossible to steal once you build them right. You can be a shoe company, but you can't just do it like Nike. Or you can manufacture computers and phones, but you can't think different like Apple. So a good story anchors your uniqueness, and it shifts the conversation from features to value.
For the close, I was wondering, we are just on the onset of the age of AI. What would be your boldest prediction about how storytelling will change startup fundraising by, let's say, 2030?
Wow, that's um, well, when it comes down to it, storytelling isn't a trend. I mean, it has been a core human communication technique since prehistoric times, if you'd like. It's one of the oldest tool we have used long before written language to pass down knowledge or culture or survival skills. People tend to remember stories from childhood, like Hansel and Gretel or Cinderella, for example. Um, Today, AI can make you a good pitch deck, but good as it is, it's not good enough anymore because everyone is good and uses the same AI. Storytelling will take you from good to excellent, from 9 to 10. It will always be the difference between. Uh, Actually, it will always be the difference and turning point between success and failure. In the future, I think storytelling won't just support the fundraising process, it will be the fundraising process. So while the tools have changed from caves to slides or from Firelight to Spotlight, the strategy remains the same. All you have to do is choose the right storyteller to walk you through this process.
So that means if you do have a story that appeals to human, it's always possible to get an AI to help you with refining, with adapting it. But it's almost impossible for an AI right now to come up with such a story.
Yeah, AI still can't put the emphasis on emotion and intuition. This is something that us human still have in opposed to AI. So uh, as long as we keep that ability, we will be good.
I see. Ehud, it was a pleasure having you as guest here on Startuprad.io. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.
Ready to level up your business finances? Open a free business account with Tide and get up to 400 euros cash back after qualifying spend. Go to tide.co/podcasts.de and sign up using promo code Startup Radio. Don't wait. Start saving time and money today.